Dark, what do you have for us?
Okay, I've got a little series known as
Do you want me to read it
Sentai.
off here?
What is
Yeah.
this? Sentai Red Isekai de Boukensha ni Naru.
Yes.
The Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world.
Yeah. The
Um,
premise seemed good at least during the previews, or
yeah,
better
the
than the
premise
others.
is good. Um, so this series is basically in the final battle against the evil exterminators, Togo Asagaki. Okay, first of all, Maul is this is not what you're supposed to say. He's a Sentai Ranger, not a Power Ranger, idiots.
Every
you
time these
you
days where
cannot
Dark
say
starts
that.
reading out the description, yeah, where Dark starts reading out the description, he experiences more and more of the pain I felt in the years before
Yeah,
where
I
I was
mean,
like
this is
reading the
more so
description.
it's like you can't be
Yeah.
out here calling Sentai Rangers. You can't be like Togo Asagaki, a Power Ranger. Traded
Yeah,
his life
exactly.
for the enemies. Like, yeah, you can't do that.
Uh,
Anyway, so yeah,
uh,
Asagaki
they
is a
should call
Sentai
them
Ranger.
powerful rangers, just like
Powerful
how they called
Ranger.
them in Akiba Ranger.
Yeah.
A masked
But
ranger. Yeah,
yeah.
it seemed what was it? It seemed like everything was over, but suddenly he found himself in another world. He becomes an adventurer, transforming into Kizuna Red and continues fighting to save people in trouble. Here he meets a young wizard named Idola, and his journey in the new world begins.
Is it
So that's
Idola or
basically a good
Idola?
coverage of it.
Because I remember Idola like PSO2 Idola.
I don't know who Idola is. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Idola is the black-haired magician.
Her name is Yidra Arvon.
What?
Yeah,
Idura Avon? Okay.
Idora? So yeah, that's
Yidra.
Idola.
Yeah, I guess
Idra.
it's
Yeah, it's
Idola.
Idra,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, they just
What the
the sort of
hell?
the
yeah. I guess they.
straight pronunciation from Japanese kana or from katakana is Idora, but then the full like English localized version is also shown as Hydra
Yeah,
essentially.
But
So that's what they
that's
kind of
that's I've always pronounced it Idola. I don't know. Whatever.
yeah. But anyways, yeah, that's the black mage here.
but yeah. So the basic premise is obviously like, this guy like Togo was the Red Ranger in a Super Sentai group, and they were like the Kizuna Rangers. Their whole gimmick, like Sentai has, is that they were like bonds and like connections and stuff, whether it be friendships or marriage and just gimmicks like that. Was it is essentially like
Yeah,
all the call outs and everything.
you know another
Um,
series that has a main focus on bonds and friendship?
yeah,
What?
what?
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. What do you think synchros are about?
Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah. So anywho, yeah, so like that's like the basic Super Sentai gimmick. He comes with everything like the his like wrist accessory to transform. Um and yeah, it does he has everything a ranger would have. He's got a gun, he's got a sword. They all have their own gimmicks. It's like a handshake like sword. That turns into a twin blade when the hands shake. Um, and yeah, he's got like a blaster with different call outs. Um, he's got different supers. They have like the giant robot that has like their bond, like a bond, like robot thing. The weird thing is that for some reason he has the robot. I don't know how he has the Red Ranger piece and the Green Ranger piece and the Blue Ranger
He can
piece.
summon all of them is the
Yeah, I don't know
question.
how he
He's
can
got
do
the
that.
full
That
Megazord.
doesn't make no sense. They're all supposed to summon their own pieces and then they're supposed to connect, but whatever.
So the focus in this series, as far as I know, as far as what it kind of seems like, is the focus. It really isn't on like building the inorganic parts of the world and like that sort of part of the lore. It's just like
Nah,
just the
it's
Red
literally
Ranger
Red
just running
Ranger
around doing
shows
cool
up in an
things.
isekai world and
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah. It
does
just
Red
does cool stuff.
Ranger type shit.
Yeah,
Um you know, obviously like the gimmick is either she like does this whole casting thing in episode 2, and she casts like a spell that kills like a single orc thing, and then Togo transforms and uses his like sword and does a finishing move and kills like 14 at the same time, and then they explode.
Mm-hmm.
um that's kind of like basically the gimmick, where it's like like he has the power level of like a ranger, so he's like one-shotting everything, and doing like super sentai moves and poses, and like smoke is exploding, like colored smoke. There's like, you know, just regular explosions happening when he like cuts an enemy for some reason, stuff like that. um
Mm.
and yeah, they like play that up. The unfortunate part, and I'll just say that this about the series, I'll just get into this right away, is that this kind of like is the only thing it does, right? Like
What
there's
do you mean
really
by that?
there's like no substance whatsoever in the isekai world. So it's like, you know, by episode 2, like episode 2 is done and I'm like, okay, yeah, I've seen everything. I've seen the giant robot, I've seen the sword, I've seen the finishers. So like, who gives a shit? Like, is
What are they
now
quote
it gonna
unquote
start to build up
saying?
a
So
story?
like
Like,
what is the story quote unquote saying that they're gonna do, right? Like
they're
what are they supposed to
so
be saying
episode
though?
1 and 2, Idra just wants him to help her gather like mana crystals that form on the
So it's
land to
dungeon
study
crawling,
them.
like episodic dungeon crawling.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. And then, but the problem is like episode 2 ends with it introducing the other two mains, which is like a blue-haired guy and a blue-haired girl, and it seems like the blue-haired guy is going to be like the hero, like the actual like hero in the world, like a paladin type, you know,
Oh,
sword user.
okay.
And then
Yeah,
the
because
girl
the Red Ranger
seems
is
to be
supposed to
like
be like the sort of alternate. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, he's like the main character, you know. So it's going to be like a thing where it's like these
Yeah.
two essentially like mains come together or something, or butt heads. Not really sure.
Uh-huh.
But ultimately, like, it seems like they're doing this thing where they're finding like evil, like giant evil guys that have these dark seed things that are like parasitically leeching off of them and like controlling them and shit.
Mm.
But ultimately it's like, regardless of where that goes, I'm kind of just already done with this series after 2 episodes, because it's like I've already seen everything, like with the Red Ranger. Like, you've shown me pretty much everything. Like, what, like, you know, like, what are you gonna do next? It's like, oh, he gets like a new form and stuff like that, and it's like, all right, but this is like
How many episodes has it been since like
only
you
2. It's
guys
been
showed up?
2, and I'm just like,
Okay.
who cares? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, all right, like, this is all this shit's gonna be. Like, sure, but this isekai world is uninteresting. This plot line is gonna be like, who cares? Because the world itself is like completely nothing. Like, literally, the more interesting thing is when they do flashbacks where Togo is thinking about his past experiences with like the villains, the Super Sentai villains, right? Like,
Yeah, because
that's
I think
way
the
more interesting
standard
because it's
the
just a Super
standard
Sentai
sort of
series at that point.
yeah, because I think the standard quote unquote fun variant, right, is when because this character, the Red Ranger, is not meant to be again the main hero, as you implied, because there is already what it's supposed to be is it's a variant of the I am a Dark Knight. I'm just like a regular like healer or like a regular
Yeah,
or
I'm the
healer that was banished
swordsman.
for the party, or I'm the swordsman or whatever. But he's actually secretly the strongest, and he either gets rejected by the hero or he's
Yeah,
always
or it's like the
compared to
fantasy
the
world.
hero,
I think,
right?
yeah, I think this is like the fantasy world where it's like, yeah, this dude is the quote unquote like hero. He's gonna be like the hero class, right? Like, he's a sword
Mm.
user that gets like all the magic and shit like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
Um,
like that sort of like comedic shtick, that sort of constant comparison and comedic shtick is supposed to be the core, usually the standard core of these series,
yeah,
but
I mean,
that's
that
not
hasn't,
happening
like I
and
said,
nothing else
that
is
hasn't
really
happened
happening,
yet.
right?
Like, that hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet, and it obviously, like, it could start happening because, you know, once they've come together. But for me, it's like the actual world space is already boring.
Mm,
The other world seemed way more interesting because it was an actual like just Sentai setup.
mm,
Um, none of the characters are particularly compelling right now either. Idra is not interesting like whatsoever. Literally, the only thing about her is, yeah, she has big boobs. Like, that's it. That's the only fucking like character trait she has. And then she is supposed to be like the straight man character to Togo doing all this crazy stuff, but
Yeah, exactly.
all her character winds up boiling down to is being like is just saying what's happening on screen and being
Mhm.
like, that's not supposed to happen. Like, oh my god, why'd they explode? Oh my god, why is there colorful smoke? Oh my god,
Yeah.
this is weird. This doesn't belong here. And it's like, I know, I'm watching the fucking series. Like, this is not how like a straight man is supposed to be behaving in a fucking in something like this. It's like this is like exceptionally like lazy, like a very lazy way to do this.
Mhm.
Like obviously it's like maybe it gets better as the series goes on and like more characters are introduced, but I really feel like it's just going to lead to more scenarios of other characters than being like, "Oh my god, how did this happen? What is that thing? Like what is going on?" It's just not like who cares, man? I really would
Well,
have
I
much
mean, the
rather have
thing
seen
is
a
that
series where it's like you obviously get that shock of other characters, but them going along with it and it actually being played out as like a just a regular action adventure isekai where like the
yeah, I
plot
think
already kicks off
the
right away.
I think the bigger thing or the biggest part of this implication is to me, that sort of, "Oh my god, you can do those things? You're actually the strongest?" That's like a very standard shtick, like comedic shtick, and even just a story narrative shtick, although it shouldn't be, in these isekai series, right? It's like, "You're secretly the strongest? What?" And that like ad nauseum, right? So that part isn't as troubling to me, although it's not good, right? But the issue is that if you're just going to rely on that sort of shtick to those sorts of shticks to add value to your story, you also need to have a central evolving story to begin with, right? So that people
Yeah, because
actually
it's
can
like
grab onto
yeah,
something.
because it's like you
But
can
if you
look
don't have
at
that,
that happening
yeah,
in something like, I mean, granted, it's not like, oh my god, like the you're the strongest type thing, but it's like even something like campfire cooking or like the campfire cooking isekai or something like Slime Tensei, where it's like, whoa, you got like this ability, like blah blah blah. But it's like, yeah, there is a central plot actually happening here, like from the get go, and there's like
mhm,
world building going on here beyond
yeah, exactly, exactly,
beyond just being like, what if Sentai guy was in fantasy world
and was awesome, yeah, exactly.
and was doing like Sentai stuff, and it's like, okay, like I'm familiar with Sentai stuff, so like I get nothing out of Idra being like constantly just being like that thing is happening. I mean, also, and again,
Hmm.
like you're showing it on screen. Like it would be much better if these things were happening and being introduced in like far more organic fights and was just happening like while a full cast of characters is like fighting a horde of goblins or something. And like, yeah, like
Hmm.
the shtick will be like one of them will look over and seeing like Togo like exploding enemies and just be shocked or something and then getting back into the fight after that, like right after. Like something like that. Like,
Right.
you don't need that level of commentary on the thing that you're being shown. Um and yeah,
Or
and that
rather,
just winds up
it can get very
becoming very
repetitive if
annoying.
it's just sold as the center piece of the entire story, not as, oh, a shtick that's like a standard shtick that's like on the side, but like the thing. Like this is the only thing you have. Right? It's like,
Yeah, it's like it constantly happens in this show. Like it's not like this is something that happens like, oh, just in episode 1 or like only like one time or something or anything like that. It's like it kept happening throughout episode 2, like during episode 2, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to lie. It's like, yeah, no, I don't want to continue with this. Like whatever, man. Like this is not great. Like
uh,
the other problem is too, and I'll get into it right now, is this is oh, by the way, this is a manga original by a manga adaptation by Satellite, and now this is Satellite doing this. And this is also like the audiovisuals are not good, right? Like they're not the worst in certain parts, like they're fine. But then like a lot of it is really just like shoddy, right? Like this is very
mhm,
much a lot of recent shit from Satellite, whether it be the Yokai Gakko no Sensei series, which obviously like you look didn't was not exactly a looker. Tasuketsu, which was also not a looker. Kuro no Shokanshi, which was not a looker either. It has really bad CG on certain monsters. Decent CG on the Ranger, like pretty serviceable, but for some reason, like some, some monsters were okay, and then like one monster in particular in like episode 2 looked like absolute shit.
Mm.
Which was weird. So yeah, just very strange stuff all around. The transformations are not particularly exciting. There's not like a really cool
Oh, that's
Megazord
criminal
like
though,
coming
because it's like
together. Yeah, like
if you're put yeah, if you're putting that Red Ranger as a centerpiece, you can't have bad transformations.
yeah, like I mean like he does like a pose and stuff, but then he just kind of like glows and then transforms and it's like okay. Like I mean like his is like
Mm,
fine, but like you know like the like Megazord type thing like coming in doesn't really have anything crazy. Like it's nothing like you know, like you would expect like some shit out of recently like a parody series like Bravern or something, right?
mhm.
Like
Yeah, Braven was good.
something like that or like, you know, the big robot in what was it called? Not the like follow-up series to the Gridman, the Sentai series version, the robot, the super robot one follow-up to Gridman.
Dynazenon?
Dynazenon. Like something like that you would hope for. And it's like, nah, you
Mm.
literally like get nothing. It just like kind of is here. Um,
But what about the
which
jingle?
is a shame. I mean, the jingles and stuff are cute. Like they're fine. Like I said, like that type of stuff is fine. Right? Like even these stuff that they're covering, like Sentai wise, the things they're adding is like fine. But with the audio visuals not being great, and then the plot being like realistically like nothing grabbing, the world building like not really being there, and then the actual like utilization of those Sentai things being followed up by like another character being like, oh my god, that thing is happening that you're looking at,
Right.
that is happening. It's like that is annoying. So then like this series just kind of winds up being like why would you bother watching this? Like either watch a fucking isekai series or just watch a Sentai series. Like there's a lot if you have not seen every single good Super Sentai series or Ultraman series or Kamen Rider series, there's a hell of a lot of other stuff you could watch instead of this.
Mm. Yeah,
And get
it's
a much better experience out of it.
yeah. It's it's a little bit unfortunate because I think this could have at least panned out as like a
Oh,
more
this
stand
premise is
as we
incredible.
mentioned.
This
Yeah,
premise, I mean, not incredible, but like it could be incredible, right? Like if you gave
like
this,
and if it just had like a standard set of like just standard storyboarding, standard script writing, it could have at worst it could have turned into a or on average it could have just turned into one of those not okay. I was a dark knight that teamed up with the hero, and but I was secretly the strongest. It could have just turned into one of those variants, and it could have been normal. But I think with this sort of like lack of direction and lack of momentum, it actually became even below average. Would you say? Yeah.
yeah, I would agree. Like it like I said, like it had a lot of potential. It's really sad to see something like that happen because it's like
Yeah.
you know you could see a series like this, like they could have, and maybe they do get to that, but like so like I feel like a series like this, it's like need no introduction then, right? Like
Right.
you do not need to have 2 episodes of fucking setup with him and Idra and Idra's whole character doing that and being like, look, it's the big boob isekai girl. It's like, yeah, I don't care, man. Like this shit,
Yeah.
you like of all the series to not start like a series like how to like using healing magic the wrong way or like the wrong way to use healing magic, or even that newer series, the what is it? The isekai with like the civil servant or whatever that comes in, the businessman or whatever,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
isn't
yeah, I
that
know
this
what you're talking
season?
about, yeah.
Like a one of the isekais where they're directly summoned to like the king's chambers. Like
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
that not for
I
this to
headhunted? I
not
got headhunted or whatever it's
yeah,
called,
yeah,
yeah.
like that should be what this could have started like then. Like a story
Oh,
like
yeah,
this where it's like
absolutely.
boom, right off the bat this dude is getting thrown into a party. You're going
Mm.
after the evil generals. And then while
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
going after the evil generals, you can have him do the crazy stuff each episode, have the other characters comment, and then you can have things like what's it called come in? Um the what do you call it, the flashbacks to like the Sentai thing and how that ties into like whatever
Yeah,
big boss
exactly.
they're fighting
Maybe
this
even
time.
that could end up being kind of a setup, a foreshadowing slash lore for later, right? And that could
Yeah,
like
yeah,
come
for
back,
like a,
and
yeah,
that
and
would
it
also
being
be an
like a
interesting variant.
mirror or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, so like
yeah.
in general like this would have been better served if I mean the other thing is too is that where I feel like this falls short and like maybe it gets to it is
Mhm.
like tonally this is kind of like not what you want to see from like not what you enjoy from a Sentai series, nor what you would enjoy from like an Isekai series either. Right? Like
Mm.
granted, this gets back into the plot, like the like the um issues with the plot that we were talking about, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, when you're even like a Super Sentai series does start to have or does have from the beginning like a through line. Like you're immediately introduced to big bads, you're immediately introduced to like the darker aspects of whatever you're about to watch. And like yeah, these
Mhm.
are ultimately going to be like young adult or a kid series, but there is usually a serious or like plot line that you could have like some drama involved in that is already introduced. Right? Like you're not really like or at least good ones, you're not going to sit there and be like oh, there's like no stakes for a while. It's like no,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
kind of know what's happening like right off the bat. Like
yeah.
and yeah, for it to have this sort of tone just kind of sucks. Like like maybe it'll get into it, but I don't know. Like I much would have rather have had like if this like this might sound weird, but a more serious handling of this, right? Cuz this kind
Yeah,
of
because what you're implying is like at least if you had the serious variant, even if like some parts of it were was cheesy or like didn't line up, at least it would have a direction, a
yeah,
proper
like
direction to like
the
base
way
the
the way
stuff
this
on.
stuff is all introduced and this tone is introduced does not make
Mm.
this feel like a love letter to like a Sentai series. Right?
Hmm.
Like that's what I would
It
want
just
to see
seems
from
like,
this. I
oh,
would
I
want to
just
see
need
like a
another.
love
I
letter
just
from
need to
this.
think a variant. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like what if the Red Ranger got pushed into here and like the only
yeah,
thing
yeah,
and like you have a like very not surface reading of Sentai series or surface knowledge, but like the way you're executing it does not feel like you really are like no, I am like very much into Sentai series.
right,
This
right.
feels like a Sentai, a Super Sentai joke you would have seen in like that's like a one-off in I don't know, like any sort of I don't know why I can't think of the series right now. The Magical Girl Next Door. I literally love that series. I don't know why I can't think of the title. Machikado. Like this
Oh
seems
yeah,
like
I forgot
like
about
a
it. Yeah.
one-off joke you would see in like a series like that or like any sort of series where it's like a Sentai Ranger shows up and
Right,
then
right,
like
right,
they have
right,
like a
right, right.
comparison or something but then like goes away. Right? Like
Mhm.
it feels like something like that, like a bit like that extended through as of right now like 40 minutes. So it's like,
Mhm.
like you can tell, like, yeah, like the Red Ranger, the shit that happens, like, the theming, how these like how Sentai Rangers, like how they function as far as like what their, powers are, what their gadgets are, stuff like that. But as far as how you should execute on this, does not feel like you actually like wanted to make something like that.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, and it just feels like just a very schlocky isekai, like bottom of the barrel type basic plot line right now. Like very surface level. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
and
like you're
again,
not
it could
really
have been
getting the best of any world, really.
yeah, yeah. Again, the worst part of it is it could have even been made average, not even below average, just average, if they had just taken the standard tools and kind of mixed it around properly. Like, just take the ingredients that are already there, that every like other Naruto or web novel, or not visual novel, web novel, light novel already uses, and just kind of mess around with them a little bit, right? With the on this
Yeah.
premise, and that'd have been
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I
But
mean. Like,
they didn't even do that. Yeah.
it feels like they did not. This author does not want to actually like go beyond what the initial premise is, right? Like just the idea.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
doesn't want to
exactly.
really like think about more so of like what, like I said, like what a love letter would be to like a Sentai series
Mhm.
where it's like, what would actually happen if you took a Red Ranger and put it into a fantasy world and like
Mm.
have that actually like play out in a
Yeah, exactly.
remotely interesting like plot line.
Mhm.
That does not seem to be really what has happened here. And it's sad. It's depressing, to be
Yeah.
honest. Uh,
Um,
yeah, major
what
How
would
letdown.
many
you
episodes are you in?
I mean, there's only 2 out so far. Like I said, like they didn't even
Okay.
really introduce the hero character. But either
The
way, like I
best
said, like
the,
those
the
2
best
episodes are
character.
really rough.
The best character will
Mhm.
take a long time to appear. You'll know which one
Yeah,
it is.
that's I probably won't because I don't know if I'm gonna give up with this. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is
I
like
will say
that's asking a lot to keep up with.
the plot gets pretty interesting later on, but that's a long way from where you are now.
Mhm.
Do you think the anime is even gonna get to that? Like,
Maybe. What's more important is they get to the good character.
Anyways,
Yeah.
any last words, and also, I guess, your rating?
Um I mean, I don't know. I just like I hope I don't know, maybe any of this picks up. Maybe it could. I don't really know. I don't think this is going to be something I keep up with. Maybe when it's all out, I might skim to see if it picks up, but yeah, I don't know. This is definitely like a pretty decent letdown.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
for the first 2 episodes, my rating would be hella lower than Maul. Maul has this at like a 6.7, yeah, 6.8. I think I would give this like maybe like a 4 to a 5 at best right now.
Mhm.
Like this is literally not. I would recommend people honestly like kind of don't check this out.
Yeah.
Like probably don't, you
Yeah,
know?
avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just like no reason
Alright.
to. At least with the first 2 episodes. Like I said, like it's early, but like, if we're going by like a 3 episoder thing, like that third episode's got to be fucking crazy to make
Mhm.
me want to stick
To
around.
make up for it, yeah. Yeah. Alright, well, thank you very much, Dark. Again, very unfortunate that it couldn't it wasn't made in a way that it could at least be minimally watchable. But it is what it is. Sometimes these premises kind of just get dropped because of the how the script and the direction is, but it's a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, this was Sentai Retto Isekai de Boukensha ni Naru, or also known as The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventure in Another World. It is a manga original, if I remember correctly, and then
It is.
it became an anime adaptation by Satellite. So again, very fortunate, but You know, it is what it is.